You walk into the room and see your 7-year-old son scattering his toys everywhere. You're exhausted from work, stressed about bills, and without thinking, you snap. In that moment of pure irritation, you shout, "Why are you always so messy? You ruin everything. You'll never grow up to be an organized person." You said it out of pure frustration, just to make him clean up, and you completely forgot about it 5 minutes later as you went to watch TV. But your child's brain didn't forget. It took your words as a direct command, an absolute truth, and the scary part? They will grow up to be exactly who you said they were. Psychologists call this the Pygmalion effect, or the self-fulfilling prophecy. It is a hidden psychological mechanism where the expectations of an authority figure dictate an individual's reality. Unless you understand how this hidden programming operates in children's minds, you might be sabotaging your own child's future with your own hands, thinking you are just parenting. To truly understand the terrifying power of this effect, we have to look back to a famous, groundbreaking, and slightly deceptive experiment conducted in California in 1965. A Harvard psychologist named Robert Rosenthal walked into an ordinary elementary school. His goal was to test how much a teacher's hidden beliefs could shape a student's actual intelligence. First, Rosenthal subjected all the students in the school to a standard, rigorous intelligence test, measuring their logic, spatial awareness, and cognitive verbal abilities. After grading the papers, Rosenthal walked up to the teachers and casually handed them a list of specific names, claiming these children were intellectual bloomers. He told the teachers, "These specific children possess a hidden genius. Expect a massive, unprecedented intellectual boom from them over the course of this academic year." But here was the ultimate twist that the teachers had absolutely no idea about. Rosenthal had chosen those specific names completely at random out of a hat. The test scores of those children were completely ordinary. They weren't special, they weren't geniuses, and they possessed no unique talents. The psychologist had told a deliberate lie. A full academic year passed, and the teachers interacted with these ordinary students every single day under the false assumption that they were teaching future Einsteins. At the end of the year, Rosenthal returned to the school and retested every single student. What he discovered shocked the educational and psychological world to its core. Those randomly selected ordinary children had achieved a massive, measurable spike in their actual IQ scores. They hadn't just gotten better grades. Their cognitive capacity had physically expanded. They had officially become the top students in the entire school. But how was this possible? They were chosen at random. The change didn't happen because of their genes. It happened because of the teachers. Because the teachers believed these kids were geniuses, they treated them differently. When they made a mistake, the teachers didn't think they were stupid. They thought, a genius having a creative block. The teachers gave them more time, more attention, smiled at them more often, and looked them in the eye with genuine respect. This subtle, unconscious shift changed everything. The students internalized this respect. They thought, my teacher believes I am smart, so I must be smart. They worked harder, studied longer, and eventually, the lie became the absolute reality. Now, let's look at the dark side of this reality. If positive expectations can turn an ordinary child into a genius, what do negative expectations do to a child's vulnerable mind? When a child is born, their brain is a completely blank slate, a powerful computer with no operating system installed. They have absolutely no concept of who they are yet. A child cannot look into their own soul to find their worth. Instead, they build their entire identity by looking at their reflection in your eyes, absorbing every word you say about them. In psychology, this is closely linked to labeling theory. When you constantly tell a child they are lazy, clumsy, or stupid, you are not just describing their temporary bad behavior. You are pasting a permanent psychological label onto their soul. The child's subconscious mind registers this label as an absolute law of their existence. The child begins a psychological process called role engulfment. They think, well, if my mother, the god of my world, says I am bad, then I must be bad. Why even try? They deliberately stop trying in school. They act out and they break things. They are unconsciously destroying their own potential just to make sure your prediction about them comes true. You think you are punishing them for being a failure, but in reality, they are just playing the exact character role that you wrote for them in your anger.
So, how do we break this multi-generational cycle of negative programming? How do we use the Pygmalion effect to build a hero instead of a victim? Rule number 1. You must ruthlessly separate the child's temporary action from their permanent identity. This is the core boundary of healthy psychological parenting. Instead of screaming, "You are a bad boy for breaking that," you must train yourself to say, "You are a wonderful, careful kid. But what you just did right now was a mistake." When you do this, the child realizes their identity is still safe and clean. They aren't fundamentally broken. They just made an error that can easily be corrected. Rule number 2. Implement the absolute cognitive power of the phrase, "not yet." This simple linguistic shift completely changes how the brain perceives difficulty. If your child brings home a terrible test grade and cries out in despair, "I'm just stupid, I can't do this," you must step in and correct the code immediately. Tell them, "You haven't mastered this specific concept yet. But with a little more practice and time, your brain will figure it out, because you are a problem solver." Rule number 3. Harness the power of the subconscious mind right before sleep. When a child is drifting off, their brain enters a highly suggestible theta wave state. Sit by their bed, stroke their hair, and whisper, "I am so incredibly proud to be your parent. You are strong, you are kind, you are intelligent, and you are going to do amazing things." Your words are not just empty sound waves vibrating in the air. They are the physical bricks your child will use to build the house of their adult life. Make sure you hand them the right materials. Subscribe for more